Okay guys, so today I want to go over why used BMWs are so cheap. So let's get on to the video.
What? Goddamn, get it done, will ya? Woo. When the blow up now, everybody's so unusual with it. Shit. But said times in his rhymes, cause his memories. We running through New York, so you know.
Okay guys, so this has probably been a long awaited video and something I should have done a long time ago. So you're probably all asking, why are used BMWs so cheap? Well, it has a lot of factors to it. I'm going to go over quite a few with you. I don't want to long this video out longer than needed. But the first one is, so if you know BMW, 70% of their sales are via lease. And when I say lease, that'll be companies, office managers, CEOs, because they hire obviously all their Rolls Royce, high luxury BMW brands like the 7 Series. I mean, we've got the Queen in the country, she rolls around in a 7 Series. And then you've also got all the police in the UK. The police also lease all their BMWs. They did used to actually buy them from BMW until they got the contract for leasing. So if many of you from the US, you're probably being shocked to hear that, but yes, our police in the UK only drive German cars, and they drive all the performance ones. So the Golf R, the Audi S3s, the BMW M cars, they've got them all. You name it, they've got it. They've got Corvettes as well. I believe Devon and Cornwall Police have just got that. But they do have a lot of fast cars. German car market here is solid. All the Met Police, even to, you know, CID, no matter what it is, they all drive German cars. Now, obviously you do get the few that do drive the Swedish models like the Volvo Jeeps and whatnot, and that's all fine. But that is what hurts the used car value market on BMW. Because if you listen to this, BMW lease them out, police do their own servicing. Now after 3-5 years, however long they lease that car, by the time the police give it back, and bearing in mind the police choose the very, very basic specs, there is no leather seats, there is no widescreen iDrive, there is none of that kind of stuff. It's just very, very basic for them to use the car because they need something reliable and quick to keep up with today's engineering of what to give pursuit. And it's mostly the traffic cars that come fully equipped. Now, obviously, the amount of mileage police do in a year is a lot. They can take a car from literally brand new and rack up 35, 40,000 miles in the first year. That's doing all highway and just patrolling local. Now, in 3 years, if you work that out, it's around 120, 130K on a brand new car. So you think, for instance, you know, it's 2021 now, so we would look at like a 19 plate, 3 years old, 2021, BMW get it back. They don't want nothing to do with it because the police have serviced it themselves. So therefore, they don't want no part in dealing with that car. So BMW take it back, put it as used, and that's why you see a lot of them going very, very cheap, brand new cars. Also, a lot of it is companies, CEOs that will lease cars. These cars are very, very expensive to maintain. So as soon as 3 years are up, everyone who bought them or got a lease gets rid of them. The same for enterprise car rental companies. They all lease them and then get rid of them. That's why they only give a certain amount of mileage. Certain rental companies, I know Enterprise give unlimited, but other rental companies that lease these cars only give a certain amount of mileage, not to rack up the mileage, because it does affect the sale to the dealer, which also affects them when they give it back, because the more mileage they do, they have to pay more on the lease contract. So it's they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place on that one. Now, a lot of it as well is the servicing required for these cars. Now, when you take them into BMW, bearing in mind there is a lot of plastics underneath these cars. Now, let me tell you what happens there. When we used to be there, we would come across a lot of plastics. It seems very easy to take off. Yes, that's all fine. To many, it's very easy. To myself, it's very easy. But when you pop the hood, only to find that someone's already been in there and tried to do something, that's when it really pisses you off. Because it's a lease car, you've just got it back. Someone has took their car to another garage trying to fix it on the cheap for them because they couldn't bother to take it to BMW, even though it was part of their contract. But majority of the time they take out just the oil change services. If anything goes wrong, other garages do it. They will use, for instance, if it's a Torx a lot of them will just use a flat-headed screwdriver, bang it on, and then untighten it because they didn't have the torques at the right time. So you do get a lot of that. Now, picture that being on around 18 bolts everywhere on the car and all the plastics, and then you see why servicing costs are so high. Sometimes just to remove the plastics on a BMW can take you up to 2 hours because all the bolts are either cross-threaded or not been put back correctly, or something's missing, or one of the plastics are broken, one of the tabs are broken, it's not sealing. And as BMW technician, we can't leave the car to leave like that, especially if it's going to cause any hazard to the car, or it's going to interfere with the electronics, or there's going to be any water ingress. So being a good technician, you report that to obviously the head technician, and you tell them what you found. They ring the customer, they'll tell the customer what is needed and why it needs to be replaced, and you replace it. In turn, what that does, that teaches also the customer not to take it to other garages because of things like that. Obviously, the customer plays oblivious that they didn't even know what the garage done. They'll never take it there again. They wasn't aware of it. But the majority of them are lease customers where the car's either going in the next month, next year, or next 6 months, so they don't care. As long as that car gets back running, they do their mileage and hand it back. And this is the same for a lot of used BMWs. If it's not an M car, it ain't gonna hold its value. I mean, if it's the 2-litre diesel, if it's a 2-litre engine, they're going to lose significant value as soon as the mileage creeps up. You've seen that on the F series, you've seen that on the G series now. So why people are scared to put mileage on them. The only way to hold that value solid is to buy second hand and try not do so much mileage in it. And that's why a lot of people use their BMs as a weekend car, not to rack up the mileage, because the more mileage you put on, the more nobody wants to warranty it, which a lot of people, when they buy it used from BMW or used from somewhere else, fine, it's got low mileage, it's under a certain age, a lot of companies will give you warranty, and that's what people want. And this is one of the major factors why a lot of people stay away from ex-police cars. Yes, they've been looked after. Yes, they had their needles calibrated. Does that make it better? No, it don't. And this is what I'm going to tell you. After 100,000 miles, the more miles it's got, nobody will put warranty on that car regardless of the year. Secondly, the more mileage, the more wear and tear comes with the car. Now, let's pull it, the police mechanics ain't all great, and where they actually service all their cars, they're not great at all. They only know the very basics. Anything electrical is straight to BMW, straight to us. So when I was at BMW, we would get over 100 E60s a week. Yes, I mean a week, in there with electronic problems that we needed to diagnose because their police technicians couldn't diagnose and couldn't figure out the problem. We were only given a week to repair that car because that car needed to be back on the road on patrol, and they do give you a deadline when you're in BMW that they need their car fixed. You can't provide them with a courtesy car because they need their sirens, and because it's a traffic car, they have everything inside. So a normal car for them isn't going to work for them. Now, Met Police do have a few, but I do realise now they are cutting the cost, so therefore they only have like probably 2 now patrolling, you know. So that's why they need them back ASAP, because BMW do give them, like I say, a rental car, but it's very plain. It's got nothing in, they've got none of their computer systems, none of their radar systems, none of their ANPR systems. So therefore, that's why they give you a week to get that car back. And if not, obviously, you get the Met Police on the phone, moaning and then suing because they need that car. And if they play on that, they're letting criminals get away because we ain't helping with their car. You know, we've had it one time when I was working in BMW where, you know, the chief of police actually called my boss there, which is my manager, telling them they thought we was holding the cars back to try and keep the police off the road from catching criminals, which was purely not the case. So if many of you guys see in London, you probably noticed that there's a lot of the traffic cars ain't on the road a lot of the time, and that's purely because they're more off the road in the dealership than they are on. And us at the dealers are not trying to keep their car there. It's just the problem is such a big job because the police don't give a damn about them cars because it's not their cars, that we are having to fix every issue, and they want it spectacular before it comes back. Because the police, as soon as it sees a light, nope, they take it straight back to their depot, change over for a new one. So this is one of the main reasons why cars are so cheap. And I am talking really about the UK because realistically, I don't know how it is in the US, but here, German cars do depreciate very, very, very fast. And because of the front wheel drive system that BMW have now bringing on a lot of the G series models, that alone is going to kill BMW completely, and that's where the used car market is going to be very, very cheap to pick up the latest BMW, no matter when you want it. Not only that, bearing in mind they are 2-litre engines now, so even 60k is very, very high mileage on a 2-litre engine. There's no more 6 cylinders, where 100k doesn't mean jack. This is a 2-litre engine, so if it's got 70,000 miles, that's a lot of mileage in the first 3 years, especially for a 2-litre engine, especially as we know, timing chains like to break, everything likes to break on them. So that's going to be plagued in issues, and that's why nobody's ever going to buy it. And that alone is going to hurt the used car value on them going forward for BMW itself. So I hope this actually gives you a brief explanation of why the used BMW market is so cheap. Like I said, it is a lot of the time it's because of the servicing, you know, the costs. And like I said, if you buy a car, even with 120,000 miles and it's 3 years old only, you got to factor in the parts that are going to be used for that car are still being used on the cars on this generation, which also means car parts are still going to be expensive for that car with high mileage, even though it's 3 years old, because them parts are still in high demand for all the newer cars, which then means the price is going to be expensive. And if they're not in high demand, like we used to see on the BMW systems, they are still going to charge a higher price because they bought it all in bulk and they want to be able to sell it. So what they do is, after, say, I think it's like 25,000 customers are buying parts for that exact make model of car, then what they do is start lowering the prices down. That's how it works. That's how BMW make their money. So do be smart when actually buying a used car. And like I said, try and avoid any ex-police cars, because trust me, they're not what they're made out to be. There is a lot of people selling them. There's a lot of people trying to say it's been well looked after. I can tell you right now, police technicians know jack shit when it comes to the electronics on these cars, or even diagnosing them. The only thing they know how to do is change the tires. If it gets a puncture, change the oil, change the regular things. They don't have spark plugs anymore because they only use diesel. The police here, yes, in the UK, only use diesel cars straight. They don't use petrol at all, and that's why I think they're going to come away from BMW now, because they only want diesel cars. And therefore, that's going to hurt them in the sale alone. Also, be aware, police cars are tuned. So when you do actually buy a second-hand one, be aware of that as well. That's why police change their oil and everything so regularly, because of that reason. And they are the only ones that are actually allowed to have it tuned, because I know a lot of you are going to ask me what I think about that. BMW actually tune it for them, because they want the police to have obviously a faster car than your average individual to catch up with whatever car BMW actually produce and give out to your normal person. So therefore, BMW actually tune their police cars for them when they leave actually the factory. And that's why, if you've ever seen in the coding, when you played about the coding, you've seen all the police certain coding options that you can do on these cars, which I'll probably go over with you in another video. But that's the reason why you have all that coding data there, because in case you want to turn your car into obviously a police car, which obviously I don't want to. But that is your answer for why the used BMW market is actually so cheap, especially here in the UK, for that one reason and one reason only. Okay guys, so you've seen there, that's my reason for why the used BMW market is actually so cheap. Now, many of you are going to add, it's because of this, it's because of that, and feel free to add whatever you want to why they're very cheap. Now, as I said, I would have gone on about the US, but I don't know too much about the market over there. But I'm just telling you why the used car market is so cheap over here, and who the majority of the people actually lease them, and why they actually come up cheap. And as I said, even these CEOs, company executives, the Queen, they all sell them on because of the mileage they actually do. So it's the mileage that actually deflates the price on them cars, regardless new or not. A lot of you are in shock because you probably see them come up and you think, wow, it's only 4 or 5 years old, it's already got that mileage, but look how cheap it is. And that's exactly why. It's the mileage that hurts the sale on BMW, because the higher it creeps to 100k, the more it's going to need in maintenance, and that's why people get rid of them straight away. That's why it's very hard to find any car under 100k, and that's purely because any person that buys them second hand under 100k takes the warranty of them, because they're under 3 years old, and warranty isn't expensive to actually take, drives them around to 100k freely without actually doing nothing, and then gets rid straight off to 100k. And that's why you see them on the market not going for sale, because nobody wants to touch them, because nobody wants to have to deal with the maintenance, because the maintenance costs are going to be so expensive, because that car is still in high demand for all its parts, and the engines are still being used in other cars, which makes it expensive to actually own and run. So I hope that actually clears up why the used BMW market is so cheap. Thank you very much for watching, guys. BMW Dr. Dean here, and goodbye.